Elon Musk missed his son's big day. Again. But what he found in a folded piece of paper that night broke him. His child hadn't asked for toys or fame, only one quiet miracle, and a prayer no one expected him to read. What did his son say that left the world's boldest innovator in tears? Before we continue this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story you won't want to miss. Elon Musk sat alone in his dimly lit home office, the soft glow of a monitor casting long shadows across the room. His shoulders slumped forward as his eyes scanned data and deadlines, yet his mind felt distant. Around him were symbols of success: awards, framed patents, blueprints of rockets, and a photo of X on his desk. In it, the boy grinned proudly, one front tooth missing, a gap that had made Elon laugh the day the picture was taken. But tonight, he didn't laugh. He sighed, rubbing his temples, just as a soft ping sounded from his phone. He glanced down. Another calendar alert. A high-level meeting scheduled for the next morning. But then, just below it, another reminder stared back at him. His eyes narrowed. Today was the day of X's school presentation, the one he'd promised, again, to attend, the same one he had now missed without even realizing it. The monitor light reflected in his tired eyes as silence settled heavy in the room. Then came the sound of small feet padding across the hallway. "Dad?" Elon turned quickly. In the doorway stood X, dressed in space-themed pajamas, clutching a small stuffed rocket against his chest. His hair was tousled from sleep, his eyes soft and unsure. "I had a bad dream," X said. "Then I heard you working." Elon pushed back from his desk and opened his arms. "Come here, buddy." X climbed into his lap, curling up quietly. "You're always working," he whispered, not accusing, just observing. Those words cut deeper than any boardroom battle. Elon held him tighter, suddenly unsure whether the silence in his house was from peace or absence. And in that moment, the weight of everything he was missing began to feel impossibly real. Elon shifted slightly in his chair and lifted X into his lap, feeling the small weight of his son settle against him. X leaned his head on Elon's chest and stared at the glowing screen behind him. "I told my class you'd be coming tomorrow," X murmured sleepily. Elon's heart sank. "Coming where, buddy?" "To my classroom," X replied. "We're doing job day. Parents come talk about their work. I said you'd be there to talk about rockets." Elon froze. He hadn't heard anything about it, not from the school, not from his calendar. Somehow, he had missed it. Again. "You don't have to come," X added quickly, bravely. "Tommy's dad can't come either." The practiced disappointment in his voice cut deep. Elon looked down at his son, eyes wide with cautious hope. "I'll be there," Elon said, his voice steady. "Front row. You can count on it." X sat up just enough to meet his eyes. "Really? Really?" Elon promised. A spark of joy lit up X's face, and for the first time that night, Elon smiled too. He carried X back to bed, tucked him in beneath the rocket ship blanket, and kissed his forehead. Alone again, Elon stared at the ceiling and whispered to himself, "This time, I won't let him down." Elon sat on the edge of his bed, the house silent except for the faint hum of electronics in the distance. His mind replayed moments he'd tried to forget. X standing at the front window in a superhero costume, waiting for a dad who never made it to career day. The art show where his son's drawing hung alone on a wall, with no parent there to admire it. A soccer game where he arrived just in time for the final whistle. X's eyes scanning the crowd with fading hope. Over and over, Elon had said, "Next time." And each time, the next time came and went. He rubbed his hands over his face, overwhelmed by a guilt that no accomplishment could silence. People called him a visionary, a pioneer, the man chasing Mars. But none of that erased the ache he saw behind X's smile. The world celebrated him for changing the future. Yet in his own home, the present was slipping through his fingers. What good is saving the world, he wondered, if you lose the trust of the one who calls you Dad? That night, his motivation crystallized. Not out of obligation, but out of love. X didn't care about global press conferences, quarterly reports, or orbital launches. He cared about one thing: his dad showing up. Not just physically, but fully. Present, engaged, and honest. Elon knew he couldn't erase the past, but he could choose something different now. One day at a time, one moment at a time. And this time, it mattered more than ever. Not because a classroom full of kids would be watching, not because his absence would be noticed by school staff or paparazzi, but because his son had whispered a promise into the darkness and believed it. And Elon was done letting that belief fade. He would show up, not for the cameras, not for his reputation, but for the only audience that truly mattered. The morning sun broke through the blinds as Elon rushed through his routine, already behind schedule. He had blocked out time in his calendar, 12:30 to 2:00 p.m., with a note in bold: X's class presentation, don't miss. He meant it this time. No rescheduling, no pushing it to someone else. His assistant had strict orders to protect that window like it was a rocket launch. In the kitchen, X sipped juice and chattered about his presentation. He was going to talk about rockets, about heat shields and boosters, about what his dad built. Elon smiled, feeling a rare sense of groundedness. We'll take the cool car, he promised, ruffling X's hair. Front row, he added, sealing his vow. But by 11:45, everything changed. His chief counsel entered, tension written across her face. We have a situation, she said. Regulators have moved up the hearing. Noon, in person only. They're threatening enforcement if we don't comply. Elon stood, heart sinking. I've blocked this afternoon. Can we delay? He asked, already knowing the answer. They won't wait, she said firmly. Billions are at stake. He checked the clock. There was no way to do both. No chance to get back in time. Elon paced, clenching his jaw, trying to solve the unsolvable. Finally, at 12:20, he picked up his phone and called Elena, the nanny. I need you to go to X's school, he said, voice low. I can't make it. There was silence. Then gently, he's been telling everyone you're coming. Elon closed his eyes. I know, just please be there for him. I'll make it up to him. At 1:00, as he sat in the hearing room surrounded by suits and spreadsheets, Elon's mind wasn't on market impact or compliance language. It was on X. He pictured his son glancing at the door, watching for him, hoping. Every minute past the hour carved deeper into his chest. Meanwhile, at the school, X stood in front of the class, hands clutching a model rocket. He explained the way heat tiles protected spacecraft, how fuel was distributed, even mentioned his dad's name. But when classmates asked where Elon was, X's voice wavered. He had a meeting, he said, but it was really important. He sat down quietly afterward, his smile dulled, pride shaded by disappointment. Back at the office, Elon's hearing dragged on. When it finally ended, he had 17 missed calls, mostly from the school. He listened to the first voicemail. X had a hard afternoon. You should come soon. Guilt hit like gravity. Elon didn't wait another second. He was already out the door. Elon barely remembered the drive to the school, just the sick feeling in his stomach and the dread that grew with each red light. When he finally arrived, the school was letting out. Children ran toward waiting parents, laughter and backpacks swinging, but X was not among them. A staff member pointed him to the nurse's office. There, on a small bench outside the door, sat X. His shoulders hunched, his backpack hugged tightly to his chest. Elon's heart clenched. X, he said softly, The boy looked up. His eyes were red, his cheeks streaked with dried tears. "You promised," X whispered, just 2 words. But they cut deeper than anything Elon had heard in boardrooms or press briefings. "I know," Elon said, kneeling in front of him, "and I'm so sorry." X said nothing. He just stood and began walking toward the exit. The car ride home was painfully silent. Elon gripped the steering wheel, trying to think of something to say, anything that might undo the disappointment hanging in the air. "I really wanted to be there," he said at last. But something urgent came up. X didn't turn his head. "It's always urgent," he said quietly. "I tried everything to change it. I didn't want to let you down." "You did," X replied. Elon swallowed hard. "I know, and that's on me." For a long moment, there was only the sound of the road. Then X asked, his voice barely above a whisper, "Do you like your work more than me?" Elon's breath caught in his throat. "No," he said. "Absolutely not. You are the most important person in my life. Then why aren't you here more?" The question hung in the air like a weight. Elon didn't know how to answer. The truth was tangled in ambition, responsibility, and the belief that his work mattered. But so did this moment. So did this boy. "I've been trying to save the world," Elon said slowly. "But I forgot how much of my world is right here, with you." X didn't respond. Elon looked over at his son, this small, brave child who had every right to be angry. But there was no fury in X's eyes, just a quiet sadness that came from too many broken promises. And in that moment, Elon realized this wasn't just a bad day. It was a tipping point, not of anger, but of fading trust. Bedtime came quietly that night. There were no goodnight jokes, no requests for stories, just a soft silence as Elon pulled the covers over X and tucked in the corners. The boy lay on his side, staring at the wall, still distant. "Will you be here in the morning?" X asked, not turning around. Elon paused. He knew how much that question held. It wasn't a schedule inquiry, it was a trust check. His answer couldn't be casual, not this time. "Yes," Elon said firmly. "I'll make breakfast. We'll eat together." X gave a small nod, but he didn't say anything else. The light from the hallway glowed against the edge of the bed. Elon lingered, waiting, hoping for more. But there was nothing, just silence. "I love you," Elon said. "Night, Dad," X whispered. Elon stood in the doorway after closing the light, watching his son's small form under the blanket. He didn't go back to his office. Instead, he walked the dark halls of the house, feeling more alone than he had in years. Sleep wouldn't come. His thoughts ran too fast, looping through memories of every event he'd missed. Every time he'd said, "next time." Every promise that had broken quietly in the background of his son's childhood. Drawn by something he couldn't name, Elon returned to X's room hours later. The boy was still sleeping, soft breaths audible in the hush. Elon walked quietly to the desk near the window. On it were drawings of rockets, a school folder, and a spiral notebook with a bent corner. He opened it, expecting math homework. Instead, he found a page labeled "Important People," with simple descriptions of his teacher, a friend, and one entry that made Elon stop. "My dad builds things that go to space. He is very busy but very smart. Sometimes he forgets things because his brain is thinking about saving the world." The innocence of the words struck him. Not anger, not blame, just understanding. A child's effort to explain away disappointment with admiration. As Elon turned the page, a folded note fell from the back of the notebook. Curious, he opened it. It was a letter, written in X's uneven handwriting. "Dear God, Anger, please help my dad. He works too much and looks tired all the time. I think he might be sad when nobody's looking. Could you make him happy and not so busy? Also, help him remember my science fair next week. It's about magnets. Thank you. From X. Elon's hand trembled, his eyes blurred. He read the note again and again. This wasn't just a child's wish. It was a quiet cry of love. X hadn't prayed for himself. Not for toys, not for candy, not even for his own sadness. He had prayed for his father's joy. A lump rose in Elon's throat. The tears came slowly at first, then faster. He sat in X's tiny desk chair, shoulders shaking, one hand covering his face to keep the sound in. His son saw him. Not the CEO, not the inventor, just a tired man trying to do everything and feeling like he was failing at the one thing that mattered most. He didn't know how long he sat there, but when he finally stood, he looked at X, still sleeping, still innocent, and whispered, "You see me clearer than I see myself." And in that moment, Elon Musk realized what no success, no headline, no invention ever had. He didn't need to change the world. He just needed to be present in the one that mattered most. A small rustle broke the silence. Elon looked up from the desk just as X sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes. The soft glow of the hallway light cast long shadows across the room. X's voice came, sleepy, but sharp with awareness. "Dad, are you okay?" Elon wiped his face quickly and stood. "Yeah, buddy, I'm fine," he said, though his voice cracked under the weight of the moment. He looked down at the folded paper still trembling in his hands. I found this by accident. I shouldn't have read it. I'm sorry." X blinked and glanced at the paper. His eyes widened with recognition, and he sat up straighter in bed. "That was private," he said quietly, his voice a mixture of hurt and embarrassment. "I know," Elon said sincerely. It fell out of your notebook. I didn't mean to read it, but once I started, I couldn't stop." X reached out and took the letter from his father's hand, holding it gently. "Ms. Johnson said we can talk to God about anything," he said after a pause. "Even stuff that's not fixed yet." Elon sat on the edge of the bed. "I didn't know you were praying for me." "You always look tired," X said simply, "and sometimes you look sad when you think I'm not watching." Elon's throat tightened again. "That's not something a kid should worry about," he said, barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't feel like it's your job to help me." "But we help people we love," X replied, with the quiet wisdom only a child can offer. That's what love is. The simplicity of the statement landed like a revelation. Elon looked into his son's eyes. There was no judgment there, no resentment, just a soft, pure light of compassion. "I'm the one who's supposed to take care of you," Elon said, voice heavy with guilt. "Not the other way around." X tilted his head. "But everybody needs help sometimes, even dads." Elon couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but no words came. Instead, he reached out and pulled X into a hug. "I've made so many mistakes," he murmured, voice cracking. "I missed things that mattered. I broke promises. I don't want to be that kind of dad." "You're still my dad," X said simply, resting his head against his father's chest. "God forgives people when they make mistakes. Ms. Johnson says so." Elon held his son tighter. The weight of the world he'd carried so long, his companies, innovations, headlines, expectations, suddenly felt lighter. Not because those things had changed, but because of this small voice beside him, reminding him what mattered most. In that quiet room, something shifted. The child had become the teacher, the forgiver, the healer. And Elon Musk, the man who built machines to reach the stars, finally saw the most important lesson of all. Love doesn't ask for perfection. It just asks you to show up. Tonight, his son had shown him the way. Morning light spilled through the kitchen windows, soft and golden. Elon stood at the stove, watching the toaster while orange juice slowly filled two mismatched glasses. The air was quiet, peaceful. The kind of quiet that holds new beginnings. X wandered in, still wearing his rocket pajamas, rubbing his eyes. He paused when he saw his dad in the kitchen. "You're here," he said, blinking. "I told you I would be," Elon replied with a small smile. "And I made breakfast." X slid onto the stool at the island, his eyes scanning the table. Toast, scrambled eggs, and the tiniest volcano of syrup on his pancakes. Elon poured the second glass of orange juice, a little too fast, and it splashed onto the counter. "Oops," he muttered, grabbing a napkin. X giggled. It was small, just a bubble of laughter, but it loosened something in Elon's chest. He smiled back more deeply than he had in days. They ate together in quiet conversation, X talking about science class and his magnet project, Elon listening intently, nodding, asking questions. No phone, no laptop, just the two of them. When it was time to leave, Elon helped X zip his jacket and walked with him all the way to the school gate. They didn't say much as they walked, but the silence was different now. Less strained, more whole. At the door, X turned back. "You'll be here when I get home?" "I'll be right here," Elon said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And not just today." X nodded, gave a small smile, then disappeared through the doors. Elon stood there a moment longer, watching the entrance. Around him, other parents had already gone. But he stayed. Not out of guilt this time, but because something inside him had changed. It wasn't about promising less. It was about showing up more. And that, he knew, was a promise he would keep. That evening, long after X had gone to bed, Elon returned to his office, the same room where he'd spent countless nights chasing impossible deadlines and firefighting crises. But tonight, it felt different, quieter, warmer somehow. He stood at his desk, his eyes scanning the familiar space. The awards, the framed news articles, the glowing models of rockets and Teslas. But something was missing. Something real. From the folder he had tucked under his arm, he gently pulled out the drawing X had made. Two stick figures, one tall and one small, hand in hand beside a rocket. Above them, in a child's handwriting, it read, "Me and Dad, we build things together." Elon stared at it for a long time. Then he reached for a thumbtack and carefully placed it on the wall above his desk, not next to his patents, not by the stock tickers, but right where he would see it every day. A reminder, not of what he's built, but of why he builds at all. And as he stepped back, eyes still locked on the image, a voice echoed softly in his mind. Sometimes, the smallest voices say the things we most need to hear. If this inspiring story moved you, take a moment to reflect on the ones who matter most in your life. And if you believe in the power of family, faith, and redemption, subscribe now for more inspiring stories like this, because sometimes the greatest truths come from the smallest hearts.